Three, two, and one. We are on. We're live. We're recording. We are here. This is SHB Unfiltered, the podcast. My name is Ruben Polai, and I'm here with Christopher Jackson, aka CJ, as always, Ayo Adesanya, and today is the 30th of April, 2020, and we are still podcasting during lockdown. Is that right, Chris?
Yes, today is episode number 41.
41. I was actually going to ask you, but I think that was quite cool. We picked a very random number to do a duet on the intro, but it's all good. It's all good. I'm enjoying it. And we are on episode 41, which means we have been podcasting for 41 consecutive days, every day, going live on Facebook, taking questions, comments, and just having a good time talking about quite a lot of things, stuttering and not stuttering related. Guys, how have you been today? Let's start with CJ, because I kind of know roughly how he has been doing. Ish. Start the day off today with some exercises, but let's go with CJ first.
Today's been okay. I had a late night last night, so didn't wake up too early this morning. But I've had a good day. It's been productive again. Been working on some stuff for the charity, which is a challenge, but I'm always up for that, as you know. So today's been a good one. Today's been good. Now we're here at the podcast, the highlight of my day.
Cool, thank you very much, Chris. And Ayo Adesanya. So this morning we started off with the SHB reading club, where today we had 4 people, actually 4 of us, including 2 of us, get together and read through Redefining Stuttering, still on chapter 1. But it's actually really good. You go through it really thoroughly together, which is very, very nice and a good way to start the day. But how has the rest of your day been?
Yeah, today's been pretty decent. I had a sales call today, which was the first one in a week. That was fun, really fun. It was a bit challenging, but not too challenging. I've been working on my speech a lot this past week, and now I'm seeing the results, but I still have a lot to improve on, as we all do. Still have to work on my breathing, especially. I feel like the more I'm working on my speech, the more awareness that is coming to me again, which I guess I had lost a little bit. So today's been a good day of working on my speech.
You're actually a muppet, because literally just before I pressed record, you were telling us some story about some amazing thing that happened today. I asked you to stop so we can actually say it on the podcast, and I gave you your opportunity, your platform, and you copped out. What happened, man?
You're a funny guy.
I am funny.
Am I supposed to tell my story now?
Well, we were live when you actually started telling us. I just didn't press the record button. Go for it, dude.
Yeah. I had an experience with my girlfriend today, and for a lot of people who stutter, it would be a negative experience for sure. 100%. It would be a negative experience. But for me, it did feel negative, but because I've been doing this for so long, I expect these situations and feelings to come up, and I can just learn from them so I can improve. So basically what happened, I was telling my girlfriend a quote I heard from someone, and it's a quote I always tell people, so I won't repeat the quote. But before I began to say the sentence, I knew I was in trouble meaning I was going to have some blocks, not just one, but I knew before I said this sentence, I was going to block on every single word. And it was so weird, like, wow. But I did it anyway. And I did block. I tried to do the breathing, tried to use the technique. First couple of times, I was not doing it properly. The anxiety was high. I was thinking, wow. And I had to really reset, really look at what I'm doing and what I'm feeling and understand, why am I feeling this way? Why am I holding back? So I said the sentence, then I said it again to her, just so I can feel at ease and learn from the situation. I was still blocking, but not as much. But I said it, I took the action, and now I feel better about it. And I've gone away from that situation, learning something. And what I learned was, in that moment, I was holding back. I wasn't expressing myself properly. I wasn't being assertive, for one. And my emotional state wasn't really there, meaning I was not in a happy place for some reason at that time. And it reflected in my speech, and I was holding back. As to when I'm happy, when I'm being assertive, being my full self, I speak a lot better, like I am right now.
Really interesting, man. Do you think that you could actually be more assertive in general, or have you been more assertive in the past? And is there more to come now? Or is this more your is this your current state now? Is this where you see yourself for the next few months at least?
Yeah, I really do. Assertive first sound is something I used to be big on, really big on. But with assertive first sound, you need to get your breathing right and your perfect timing. And that was something I've dipped on over the past year. So I'm just trying to get back to that state, get back to using these techniques subconsciously. And I feel like it's getting there slowly. And that's because you and Chris are supporting me.
Of course, man, that's what we do. That's what we do. And before you ask me how my day was very good. As you can see, I've done something different with my hair. I've been complaining about my hair for some time now. It's just getting too out of control. So I invested in an Alice band. David Beckham, circa 2003. Before he went to Real Madrid, this is what he used to do. So 17 years later, I'm doing the same thing. We'll see how long this goes on for. The problem is, the guy I get my haircut from, so his mum is really ill, and they're worried that if they pick up the coronavirus and stuff, then she could get it and go. So he's not going to be available for a long time now. So I guess I got to wait for him to be back, and until then, I've got my Alice band to keep me in check. The rest of the day was pretty cool. I've been busy with a few things. Kind of interesting, actually. Chris will be interested too, perhaps. I was going to speak to him afterwards about it, but I mentioned here that I've been on once with Chris and once for myself, the Toastmasters Club with the Pakistan Stammering Association or Foundation. They're based in Karachi in Pakistan. And so I've been taking a look at a few of the Zoom meetings, and I've been asked to be a general evaluator for a club in Dublin next week. And I'm also going to hopefully be attending a meeting with the New York Toastmasters the week after. Chris, if you want to come as well, that'll be a late one actually. So that's going to start at around 11:30 p.m. London time. So if you're keen, come through. Let's go global. And yeah, been working on stuff for SHB in terms of videos, podcast backend, and video program, and done posts that I shared with these guys just now, and I put on Instagram but later on when it's finished. So let's get into the actual meat of the topic. I think it was fitting that AO actually gave us that story, because conveniently is actually the topic for today. And by topic, I don't mean we're just going to talk about breathing. That is the overarching topic, but I wanted to cover off maybe different types of breathing when we speak, kind of some of the pros and cons, and kind of like discuss maybe misconceptions, and hopefully we will disagree on a few things as well. So then we can actually have like a mini argument to see, you know, if there is value in some of these types of breathing. And yeah, let's see how this goes. Just to note quite a few points that I pulled out. I've got some notes here taken from our SHB community forum. So these are kind of comments from some of the other people in our community discussing the same thing. So thank you very much for being open and sharing your stories and experiences. And we will be discussing some of the points here. So guys, let's, probably a good place to start is, I want to talk about maybe different types of breathing first, and then kind of like the best ways you incorporate these types of breathing into your speech. So when we go through types, the main ones I've picked out are, so we've got costal breathing. That's used by a few programs. We have, is it belly breathing or chain breathing? What's the actual name, Ayo?
Well, it's just a regular breathing pattern for me, but I guess it's belly breathing, or what do you call it, Chris? What's the proper name for it in your view, Chris?
Connected breathing, I call it personally.
Connected. I don't know why I called it chain. It just sounded similar to connected breathing, but yeah, it's chain breathing. So connected breathing. And the last one I picked out is transformational breathing as well. So maybe let's go backwards. So I know the two of you actually have experience of attending transformational breathing seminars, and have exposure to that community as well. Do you guys want to share like how those workshops went and what value you gained, what things you carried forward?
I attended one transformational breathing workshop. I was there to help a friend. I really enjoyed it, to be honest. It was a different type of experience to something I've never experienced before. The emphasis was focused on continuously breathing, and it was breathing from the belly, but continuously. They have something called 100 breaths to life, and that's quite an interesting exercise. It really puts you through your paces in terms of breathing. There was a lot of other factors to it. I'm not an expert on transformational breathing. I never claimed to be. But what I did experience is that as you're breathing, you focus on certain areas of the body. And from what I understood at the time, I'm sure other people will be able to give a clearer explanation. But for me personally, you focus on certain areas of the body when you're breathing. And it sent a tingle through my whole body. I started to get pins and needles in my hands, in my feet, everywhere. But afterwards, it gave you a sense of relaxation and that I've never felt ever before in my life. So I thought it was quite cool, personally. Ayo, I don't know what your experience was like. Was it a similar experience? Is there anything I've missed out? I'm sure there's a lot that I've missed out.
Before you start, Chris, I do remember actually speaking to AO, I think the night after or the night of the workshop he attended. And he literally, as in, it's just a contrast to your experience because you obviously went there, gained something, and reflected on it positively. this guy had some life-changing experience, and and I still remember some of the things he said. I'm gonna let him actually go into detail so I can relive the moment when I heard that, and I was like blown away by his feedback.
For me, it was the best experience. One of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. It was mad. I was there for like 2 hours in a dark room in Wimbledon with a bunch of people of all races and ages. And we had a facilitator, a woman, and she was talking about why we do transformational breathing and why this has changed so many lives. So basically, she has some lovely music. She guided us by having someone at the front, which then she showed how to do the breathing. That was cool. She was able to find pain spots in this person she used at the front. So based on how the guy was breathing, she could say like, wow, this person has trouble in this area of his body, and it was this, and it was attached to this experience in his past. I was like, wow, this is crazy, man. So then we started to do it for ourselves, and we had that 6 trainers, facilitators come and breathe us, where they touch us and they would feel us and tell us where to breathe and how to breathe. And then for me, to cut a long story short, I just started crying all over the place. I was a wreck. Like I just started crying because I was just breathing and all these tears started coming down.
You can't cut a long story short and go straight to crying, man. What happened before that? Tell us how you got to that point, because I'm actually really interested.
I can't remember. It's like a dream. I just remember laying down and we started to breathe. And then these 6 people were walking around breathing us by putting their hands on our bodies. And this one woman, not the same woman who was at the front for facilitating, another woman, she touched me in certain areas and said, breathe here, it's okay, it's okay. She's telling me it's okay. And I'm like, what do you mean it's okay? Just keep breathing, it's okay. And I just started crying with all the music as well, and the atmosphere, the candles. When you hear people around you who started making noises, started to moan, like, wow, what's going on? And then I just surrendered. I just surrendered, meaning I let go of expectations of me trying to hold my pride and ego. I just said, you know what, I'm here for a reason. Let me just let go and just surrender to what's going to happen and not try to be a man or pretend that I don't have feelings. So I let that go and I just like cried. Bro, it was mad. I didn't know what was going on. I was just like, and then I started shouting. It's like, I started shouting. What did I say? I was saying stuff like, I can't, if I'm honest, I can't remember, man, I'm sorry, but I was shouting something to do with my past. I was shouting, I was angry. I was hitting the floor, being angry and breathing and crying, mad. And once that was over, we all calmed down and I shared my experience. They were clapping for me like, yeah, you're one of us now, you're one of us. I'm like, what? It was like a cult. It was good though, it was a good cult. So you're one of us.
That's a massively different experience to what I had. Completely different.
It was right. Then I left and I was fluid. I was fluid for the whole night. I was killed. I'm like, wow, I'm killed, bro.
The same thing, or it feels like you both literally went to completely different workshops. You sure it was the same address? What happened? What happened to you, Chris? You skipping over details.
To be honest, I didn't experience anything like that. I didn't experience a mad rush of emotion. There wasn't trying to bring anything from my past up. I think the way the setup was is that it was a training, and I went there to help my friend that was training. So I was there for them to practice on and work out how to implement things and stuff like that. So I didn't go there as a group and everyone was working together as a group. I was just working with my friend, or my friend was breathing me, as they call it. I don't remember getting that rush of emotion. What I do remember getting a rush of is just the mad experience of never having that much oxygen inside you in such a short amount of time, because you are really breathing aggressively. It's not the most relaxing thing when it's happening to you, but afterwards it sounds corny, but it is quite transformational after. You do feel very different after.
Just to add, the one thing I guess I didn't explore is how I could bring that into my day-to-day life in terms of stuttering. That's the one thing I haven't really understood. It's good for like a standalone thing, I guess, relaxation, letting your emotions out, maybe. But in terms of stuttering, I'm just not sure.
Do you think it would be kind of like a worthwhile thing to do in the morning, or is it not as straightforward as that?
You definitely need to go on a training to experience yourself. You can't learn from me or Chris. You have to actually, it's a standalone thing. It's its own thing. You have to go to a workshop.
Yeah, no, these people train for years in order to get to the level they are. And to be honest, at first I was like, this is mad, like, what is this? But then when you're going through it, you're like, wow, these are actually know something completely different to everyone else. If you read up on it, I think the person that invented it, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if you've heard the same thing, Ao. The person that invented it claims that she was ill or had cancer and she breathed it away, apparently, I heard.
Yeah, it's funny because I hear the same stuff. I have a coach and he believes in the breath work, and he was paralyzed and he killed himself. He can now walk, and he said it's all down mainly to the breath. Crazy. My girlfriend's the same. She believes in it's all in the breath. So I'm having people who don't know each other, who are totally independent, say the same thing. You know, it's all in the breath. It's all in the breath. Like, it can't be a lie, right? It can't be a lie.
You probably heard the same thing, Chris, at BJ, right? With breathing and some of the stuff the Gracies used to do with their belly, kind of like that intense breathing warm-ups that they used to do.
Yeah.
If you can't breathe, then you don't have strength, because that's where your strength is from. That's what they believe. You can have muscles and fibers and stamina, but if your breath isn't good, then you don't have anything.
Yeah.
Just want to add quickly, also what's helping me is toning, which I learned more or less from Chris. Chris tones a lot, and I never really toned ever before, but now I'm finding myself doing it every day, especially before I'm speaking. I feel like I'm able to breathe more effectively because my lungs are practicing expanding and contracting. So that's really good as well.
You guys, I think I messed up a bit because I think I messed up the order, so we probably peaked a bit too early with this episode. So we should have put this at the end, but I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on now to coastal breathing. So I just picked out a few lines from the chat in the SHB community forum. Some really good stuff. Some really thought-provoking things that people have pulled up, and especially around the topic of breathing. One person said that they are really on top of their speech, they're working their speech is going well. They are finding success in speaking and their everyday activities. However, when they get complacent, things kind of happen when the blocks and stuff creep up. They actually forget about breathing. Now, that person is a proponent of postural breathing. What do you guys think of that line, first of all, as a standalone line? So when they get complacent, they forget about breathing. So is that kind of something that we, as people who stutter, have to actually carry for the rest of our lives? Because breathing is such an essential part of everything. Is this something that we actually have to monitor now for the rest of our lives to actually stay on top of our speech? What do you guys think?
If you want to use coastal breathing for the rest of your life, the answer to that is yes. Because coastal breathing is not a natural way to breathe. It is something that you have to do. You have to be conscious when you have to consciously coastal breathe. I've heard people claim that it becomes second nature to them. I don't know how much I believe that, but that's just my personal opinion, because in my experience, I wasn't ever able to make coastal breathing second nature to me. Whenever I had to do it, I was consciously thinking about it. And I think that's one of the major problems with coastal breathing, personally. I think that the fact that it's not natural and you have to be conscious of every breath you take when you use coastal breathing, it can create problems that you don't even realize will be created after a while.
I think coastal breathing does have its place in the speaking world, especially the world of stuttering, because I found success with implementing it for public speaking. And intercostal diaphragmatic breathing is something that is taught to actors and actresses, drama students, and people doing performing arts from a young age. I was taught that type of breathing from the age of 7 onwards, and kind of that was part of the syllabus that I followed, and the exams I did. We had to pick out kind of pictures and point to the intercostal muscles and explain what the mechanics were, etc. So it isn't like a thing that's purely dedicated for stuttering, which is what some people believe. It's always in there. It's got its place in the world.
Yeah, I agree.
It's got its place. But I think for everyday conversation and stuff, I don't think it is fully practical, because you do lose an element of engagement with the people you're speaking to if you're focusing some energy and thought on your breathing. Ayo, I'm sure you have some interesting points to add. What has your experience been with coastal breathing in the past, and what did you take from it?
I was taught coastal breathing pretty early on. I really never got the hang of it, so I dropped it out pretty early. And if I'm honest, I never used the breathing technique for a long time. I was more of just advertising and being assertive. Being assertive and advertising was what changed my life, not really any breathing. That's the truth. I've never really used coastal breathing, so I'm not the best person to ask. I gave up on it pretty early. Recently, over the past year and a half, I generally use belly breathing or intercostal breathing, which I think is belly breathing, and coastal breathing is just using your upper chest. It's not even a real word, a real breathing technique. I mean, the name is not a scientific name. Coastal breathing is not a scientific name at all. It's made up. If you Google it, it's intercostal breathing is actually belly breathing. Coastal breathing is upper chest breathing. I've never really used that, but my experience with intercostal breathing, which is natural breathing, but I guess it's just a better way of breathing because you're breathing fully and you're properly expanding your lungs. I found that to be the most beneficial, but I still have a problem because I naturally breathe shallow because of my stuttering. So it's a habit for me to breathe very shallow, and that creates a lot of my speech blocks. So this is something I am still working on, try to improve my natural breathing.
I'm sure that kind of at the start of your journey, when you're working on this piece, you did implement a breathing technique. So it isn't completely something that you haven't implemented before. I'm sure that is what you were doing for the formative stages of your journey before you started focusing on advertising. So like, just to get you started off on that journey, these are the fundamentals, right? Just want to check.
Yeah, you need to breathe. You need to have a proper, the most important thing is a regular breathing pattern. This is something I picked up, but I wasn't aware of consciously. I was just at the start breathing heavily and loudly. If you watched my previous videos on YouTube of me, when I overcame stuttering the first time, I was very assertive, very loud, because I was taking massive breaths. I wasn't breathing into my chest. I was taking massive breaths and speaking with power. And that is something I'm trying to get back to. I never used coastal breathing ever. And I've been known to say that on previous programs in private to people. I hate coastal breathing. That's just my opinion.
Cool. I've got a few more comments actually that may interest you then in that case. Coastal breathing. So from another member, said, he asked the question actually, does it sound worse than a stutter? So the sound of coastal breathing, does that sound worse than a stutter? And most people in the 99%, when they listen to you, if you have a stuttering block, then they would be able to recognize it most probably. But would coastal breathing confuse them even more and just create a lot more hassle for the speaker, for the person stuttering?
No, I don't personally think so. I don't agree with that. I think that coastal breathing, for me personally, I implemented it and I enjoyed implementing it, especially early on in my journey, because I associated coastal breathing with working on my speech and I enjoyed that journey. I never got a reaction that, oh, you sounded better when you were holding your breath, blocking out of control. The natural thing is when someone sees you blocking, they usually say, take a breath. So that's pretty much what people expect you to do anyway, is breathe. It also works as a good disclosure mechanism anyway. And also it helps you to desensitize. Because if you are worried about sounding different or looking different or worried about people's reaction, it is a good mechanism for that as well, because it is completely unnatural. It is a completely different way of breathing, and people will pick up on it straight away. So I don't think that it sounds worse than a block, because, I mean, people don't really like to block. When you coastal breathe, you feel more in control because you feel like you're working on your speech or in that mindset. So I don't think that you can compare the two and think that just taking a big coastal breath can sound worse than you blocking and struggling and the distortion in your face and all the rest of it.
Coastal breathing does work for a while, and I think I know why. It's just like any other technique. You have to consciously think about it. So when you're doing it, you're not in the stuttering mindset. You're in the WOMS mindset, the working on your speech mindset. So just the act of you focusing on upper chest breathing, it makes you more mechanical and it puts you in the right mindset. So it does work if you think of it like that.
Interesting from both of you, which is why the next line, I just want to see what your reaction is. The cost of breathing, it is unnatural, but the price you pay for control.
I think it's the price you think you're paying for control, personally. That's what I think. Because what I came to learn over a period of time, me and Nao used to argue about this. I used to say, no, I'm cost of breathing. This is in the early days. And he used to say, okay, but I'm telling you now, it's not just cost of breathing that's helping your speech at the moment. What I worked out, and what AO explained to me as well, is a regular breathing pattern is what you need. Well, when you block, you are holding your breath. That is what you do. You're holding your breath. So coastal breathing does help you to be conscious and go again, but it's the way that it's taught that I have the issue with. You're usually told 1 coastal breath for every 3 breaths that you take throughout the day. Is that realistic? Let's be real. Is that realistic? So you're sitting at work, you're at your computer, you're getting on with your work. Are you doing 1 coastal breath every 3 that you take? Chances are no. Now, when you go to speak in 3 or 4 hours time, and you remember, oh my God, I haven't been doing that 1 coastal breath in between 3 breaths, and you go to speak, you're going to think, well, you could potentially think, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to talk now because I haven't been doing my coastal breathing. And now your mindset's all messed up, rather than just thinking, okay, let's compose myself, let's breathe, let's not hold my breath, keep the breathing regular, and let's be assertive. I think that people think that coastal breathing is the be all and end all, and unfortunately it's not.
Yeah.
Or unfortunately it's not, whichever way you want to look at it.
Sorry guys, just sorry. Just want to hold you there. I'll bring you back in a second. I just want to turn attention to the Facebook feed just briefly. So we got Mark Murphy saying, interesting explanation from AO on his transformational breathing experience. I must have led a sheltered life, or I'm living too far up north. It's interesting listening to you guys, and well done for keeping these podcasts up and running. Thank you very much, Mark. We appreciate that. The second one, there's a few components to this one, but we're going to go through it really rapidly-ish. I personally believe, so this is from Anta, I personally believe breathing techniques may be or are helpful when it comes to stutter, but aren't a cure or the sole solution to the problem, which we will agree here. Even though there isn't much hardcore evidence, presumed pathophysiology of the stutter isn't breathing based or related to the respiratory system. In your experience, when did you find breathing best helpful? Situational or as a regular exercise? So just to kind of unpack that comment, he's saying that there isn't evidence that stuttering is related to the breathing system. So why is there emphasis on actually breathing exercises to address stuttering? Because are you actually tackling the root cause of it? And the second part is, do you implement breathing techniques as an exercise? So something you do in the morning or in the evening, or do you use it when and if you approach stuttering situations or stuttering blocks, which is how I interpreted that second question. I think I can probably answer this second one and say that, yeah, we do implement breathing techniques as maybe a warm-up in the morning. I don't do it fairly often, but I sometimes do it properly just to calm myself down for the day. And it isn't really completely purely a speech directed exercise, but more just to start the day off on a good foot mentally and physically. And then situationally, when I encounter blocks, I have to center myself and slow my breathing down and get my rhythm back to present myself and get what I need to say out the way I want to say it. If you guys have anything to add on those, feel free. But I will pass over back to AO before I rudely interrupted him. I'm sorry, bro.
Just to answer the first point, there is no scientific evidence linking stuttering to breathing right now. There's none at all. But from my experience and from working with people who stutter, breathing, there's no direct link in my experience between stuttering and breathing. But what breathing does is it calms down the nervous system, the feelings in your body, all of the anxiety. And we believe that stress and anxiety is linked to stuttering, produces more stuttering. So if you're breathing correctly, breathing in a regular pattern, you're sending a signal to your nervous system that you're safe, that you are actually safe. And then your body can calm down, the stress can calm down, the anxiety can slowly dissipate, and hopefully that will manifest into speaking more clearly with less blocks. That's my understanding of why we do breathing.
Just want to check, this would be the last point on coastal breathing, but one more line that popped up, which I thought was kind of contradictory to some of the other things that I've seen on coastal breathing in that group, but done right, coastal breathing is silent and unnoticeable. Now, maybe think and can agree or disagree, but if you have actually seen examples of it done right, and what does done right actually mean?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. What does that mean? What does done right actually mean? Does done right mean that your coastal breathing in silence? Is that what he means, or they mean?
Chris, the next time you watch Monday Night Football or a game on BT Sport and Peter Crouch is a pundit, take a look at the way he speaks.
Why does he use coastal breathing on Monday Night Football?
Yeah, because I reckon he went to some vocal coaching before he started his podcast, and you can actually hear him speak and actually use proper coastal breathing that the way we know it. It was quite interesting to actually see because he was the only one doing it, and when he does it, fair enough, you can see it, but he speaks really kind of powerfully, clearly, and has really impactful way of speaking. He conducts himself very, very well on MTF.
I can see where that person's coming from, because you do see a lot of people coastal breathing, but they're just breathing loud. So it might not be coastal breathing, it's just more of a, it's not actually a real coastal breath. So yeah, I understand that he's meaning that it's more of a, it's not like a, so I understand where he's coming from. So yeah, perhaps we've just made him right in what was just explained. We've just made him right.
And maybe Pete Crouch is the beacon, the gold standard of coastal breathing.
Yeah,
that's what we're trying to say. All hail Crouchy. So I'm going to move on to the last one. Connected breathing. Connected breathing. So why is connected breathing any different to coastal, belly, and even transformational? I'm sure you guys will fill us in. Whichever one of you wants to tackle that one, I will step back and allow you to go.
I think for me, breathing, it's important to just have a regular breathing pattern. It's important that the diaphragm is not freezing, and it's important to breathe as natural as possible. The issue I have with coastal breathing is that it encourages time pauses. I don't think it's healthy to deprive your body of oxygen. The more oxygen that's in your body, the better. It only makes sense. And for me to keep a regular breathing pattern, in my experience, is all I've needed to get good speech. So it's something that you can do second nature. It's just keeping that continuous cycle of breathing, rather than taking a breath, stop it, then remember to take another breath, stop it, take another breath. It's just a continuous cycle of breathing. Just making sure that your body's got enough air in its lungs and to speak.
I think Chris said it. He said it, that you can actually make connected breathing second nature, because it's just a natural way of breathing. And for me, I want to have balance in my life. I don't want to be thinking about speech techniques, breathing techniques on top of that in every conversation I have. I want to breathe for life. I actually want to increase the capacity of my lungs so I can function better in life. So I would rather kill two birds with one stone by learning to breathe properly in the first place than learning a specific technique just for stuttering, which is not gonna help me in other areas of my life. It might even restrict my lung capacity if I'm just breathing into my upper chest 24/7. You know what I mean?
Also,
Yeah, name, I mean, sorry, go on, Chris.
I was just going to say, also, I think connected breathing really reduces anxiety. Coastal breathing, I feel, can increase anxiety as well. I've experienced this personally, and I know I've spoken to a lot of other people that have also experienced similar thing.
What exactly happened, Chris? Sorry.
You get to a point where you've been struggling with your speech for a little while. You're trying to get back on track. And when you go to coastal breathe, you actually almost stutter when trying to breathe. And I know for a fact I'm not the only one that's experienced that. So to get your regular breathing, or when you approach a block, to release it and go again, there's too much tension and too much anxiety that your brain can't accept that you want to execute this now. And it becomes unnatural to you again, and you literally have to relearn it all over again. And I found that. I've spoken to someone else who found that, and it's been mentioned to me a few times by other people that have asked me for coaching.
Very interesting, very interesting. What do you tell them then if that's their breathing pattern, that's their breathing technique that they've been implementing? How do you actually assist in addressing it if that could be part of the problem?
Well,
oh, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, well, Chris was coastal breathing for a long time. He had success, and then he realized that it wasn't actually the best way to do it. And Chris adjusted. So if Chris can adjust, other people can. It's as simple as that. And if they don't want to, they can keep their problem.
Was that what you're going to say, Chris?
Yes, something along those lines. What I was going to say is I realized that when my speech was at its best, I found that I would just speak, and I wasn't coastal breathing, and my speech was really good, and my mindset was in the right place. I was prepared to use a tool here and a tool there, and advertise here and advertise there, and I didn't care about anyone's reaction. I didn't care about if I blocked even. I literally got to the point I don't even care if I block, because if I block, I'll learn and I'll cancel. That's the attitude I had. And I realized, okay, so what part is coastal breathing playing in all of this? Other than stressing me out because I've got to remember it all the time. So that's what what happened to me, and that's just my personal experience. I know there's a lot of people out there that will listen to this and they'll be like, I love coastal breathing. This guy don't know what he's talking about, which is fine. It's up to them. It's their journey. But I'm telling you my experience with coastal breathing.
Definitely. That's what this is all about, really. Just kind of share the different experiences, because we've all given it a good crack, and we've found success with it in certain situations and not so much in others. But that's what this is all about. It's all about information sharing, finding out what works for you, not just being told what to do and no hold bar approach, just do this or you're screwed. This is what it's all about, and there's so much out there. I do encourage people to go out and actually learn for themselves and see literally what works for them, because it's very easy to get stuck in a rut with stuttering. I think a lot of people can easily get stuck in a rut, and we've all been there at certain times. And sometimes it just takes that, just step back, step out of your kind of information pool, learn from other people, pick up some new experiences, and then start putting the puzzle back together again. Because you're trying to make your puzzle with the pieces you have, but you don't have all the pieces. Then how are you going to finish it? That's where I try to see it.
And this goes back to the point, I think it was yesterday we were talking about people that are coaching people that haven't experienced it, haven't trialed and errored anything. They've just tried one thing and then they read things from a book and re-quote it. But because we've tried everything and we have given it a real shot, we can sit here and say, this worked for me and this was my real experience. And I think that's key. Everyone needs to get to the point that they've given something enough of a chance. They've learned the different aspects of it, how it works. Can it become second nature? Can it not? Is it really the breathing? Is it that type of breathing? What do I feel most comfortable with? You won't know unless you really put yourself through the trenches and try.
Just want to add to what you were saying, Chris, about breathing. I think you proved my point, because you said when you're feeling good, you forgot about breathing and you were just advertising. You forgot about breathing. And I spoke to another guy who's overcome stuttering recently. He said the same thing. You don't think about breathing if you're feeling good. Hence why we only breathe to soothe our nervous system, to bring down the stress and anxiety. Then you just speak better, because we stutter because we're stressed and we're very anxious and we stutter.
Yeah, you focus on your breathing when your tensions are highest.
Exactly. So that's what I was trying to say. You proved my point. Breathing may not be directly linked to stuttering. It may not be directly linked, but it does help bring down the stress and anxiety so you can actually speak better.
Cool. Guys, let's get some final words in, because I think we are at time right now. You guys just put forward some brilliant points there about breathing and its actual connection to stuttering. So similar to what Anta said earlier, there's no evidence that breathing or the respiratory system is connected to stuttering. However, there is impact the other way. So something else may be affecting the nervous system, which then affects your breathing. So we have to get to the root of that. However, we're not going to do it on this episode. So do you have any final words on breathing before we close this one out? I'll be holding my breath.
I'm not really against any sort of breathing, even coastal breathing. I personally just don't like it for my own reasons. But if you find it works for you and it continues to work for you, stick to it. Don't listen to me. If it's working for you, stick to it.
CJ?
Yeah, I think that it's more to do with a continuous breathing pattern. It's more to do with preventing the diaphragm from freezing, and to avoid pushing through blocks, you need to take another breath. Yes, it can be coastal. Yes, it can be connected. It's up to you. But personally, I've realised that it's not the coastal breathing that was giving me great speech. It was my mindset towards working on my speech.
Cool. Thank you very much. I think that was a brilliant episode, and whoever was watching along while we were discussing various types of breathing that we have encountered on our journeys of working on our speech. I hope you found value in the conversation, and to the people who interact with us in the comments, thank you very much. I hope we did those comments justice, and thank you for everyone who joined in at whichever point. We had quite a few people on at various points during the podcast, so thank you very much as always. And so my name is Rimply with CJ and AO, and this is the end of episode 41 of the Stop Holding Back Unfiltered podcast. I'm gonna let Chris do the ending as he loves it.
Thank you very much for listening.
Powerful. Big breath. Pick your breathing pattern, whichever one you want to use, and end with a bang.
Thank you very much for listening, guys. Remember, stop holding back.